Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade. I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 79. Today is Sunday, March 1st, 2015, and I'm glad you could join me today. So, I'm wearing a echo. It is, so you know that handspun I showed you last week? It has become an infinity cowl. Or a Mobius cowl. So it is a single-sided object. And I ended up using Kat Bordy's tutorial for the Mobius cast-on, and I used the pattern for the honey cowl. So on one half you can see, so on this side you can see the honey cowl pattern, and then on this side you can see the back side of the honey cowl pattern. And we flipped this around, then this side is the honey cowl side, and this side is the reverse of the honey cowl side. So, here, actually it might be a little bit easier to show the shape this way. So for the most part, it lies pretty flat, but then it has one twist down here. And it is I'm pretty sure it's the perfect cowl length. I cast on 220 stitches, so it's enough that it can go on twice without feeling like you're, strangulating yourself. But it does look pretty cute. And then it has all this rainbowy goodness to it. So I used, math. So I had 80 grams left of the 236 I started out with, which would imply, I'm just going to pull up the calculator because I think that'll be a little bit easier. So, start with 236. I had 80, so I used about 150 grams. And I measured my skein, and so I started with 566 yards, and I had about 280 left, which means I used about 286 yards. So I used half the yardage that I had on this part, but definitely, So I used slightly more than half of the yardage, but it wasn't half the weight at all. So what was that? 80 divided by 236. So half the yardage was in fact in, 66 of the weight. So, such is life. And the pattern that I'd mostly based it off was actually called Mobi. Oh, you can see. Maybe a little bit there. So the pattern I used was called Mobi. Not very many projects were made with it, and actually the pattern called for a 2-color brioche, but I decided to just use the honey cowl. Oh wait, you can see no twist on this side, one twist on this. So it is very squishy, and I did, for the most part, I followed the Mobi pattern. So I ended up doing the bind off in Wool Mice Pure, held doubled, and it was a 4-stitch I-cord bind off, which took forever. Oh my goodness gracious, that took a long time. I finished it off this morning, and I'm now enjoying it for the time being. However, this is actually going to be one of the prizes for the Something Special cowl, because I actually have zero use for a cowl in Texas. So I was hoping that one of you guys would be, so this being a prize. So, I don't know, since basically I did get the fiber for free. And it turned out really cool. I'm pretty excited with how it turned out. It seems like the lighting is sort of washing it out a little bit, but it sort of goes in a gradient from greens to yellows to reds. You can't really see the oranges very well, but it's pretty cool. And there's another part of it as well, which I'm working on now. So the other part of the project, which is actually the only thing on my needles at the moment, is I'm making a hat with the rest of the ball. So I had 80 grams left over, which turned out to be 280 yards. And now I'm now knitting a hat with the with the leftovers from the cowl, because at some point, you know, you can't really make a cowl any bigger. So with that cowl, it would have been pretty ridiculous to have used the entire the entire 8 ounces to make it. The width of the cowl is about 10 inches, so nothing. So I think that ended up being a really good cowl width in the grand scheme of things. And so I'm making a matching hat with the mostly red part of the gradient. So, so what is it? Half of my length is in 1/3 of the weight, so I'm using much smaller needles because this is effectively a fingering weight. Or the short answer is that the cowl is a DK section of the yarn, and this section that I'm knitting now is more of a fingering. I don't know if I was distracted while spinning or what, but the weight was very different between these, so whatever. So the pattern that I'm using the same stitch pattern as the honey cowl, which oddly enough there is the matching honey hat. So it's using lots of slip stitches to sort of transition the colors smoothly. I'm up to 160 stitches, and I managed to get this onto a circular needle. I'm thinking at this point it's the same. I've been benchmarking off of my hand spun hat to try to figure out if I'm at the right spot. And I think I am at the right spot. Like, I was like holding the thing up against it and be like, am I there yet? Am I there yet? And I think I finally reached there. So it is it's a fairly mindless pattern, but you do have to have a little bit of a visual cue because you're doing slip stitches with yarn in front. So you have to somewhat pay attention to it, and I had to whatever increase to the point where I had an even number of stitches, which I think because I had 10 different regions and then I was expanding out, so that tends to be a pretty good hat size. That tends to be the most even way to increase out for a hat. If you didn't know, multiples of 10 or whatever, having a hat of 10 segments, I think 10 segments is the word I'm actually looking for. So if you have 10 segments and you increase evenly across the 10 segments, you end up getting a flat cap, so to speak. So I've been working on this, or I cast this on sometime this afternoon, and I've been sort of obsessively working on it. I don't know, there's something really addictive about the slip stitch pattern, for whatever, that honey pattern, for lack of a better word. So it's been a lot of fun to knit, and it's been delightfully brainless. But I will be including this hat with the cowl as a part of the prize for the Something Special cowl. The Something Special cowl is going to be running until March 31st, so you guys have until the end of the month to finish a project. And so what I'll end up doing is I'll take the FO pictures and what is it? I'll take the FO pictures and do a random number drawing from there. So so you better post your pictures and chat it up if you're interested in winning the hat and cowl set from yarn that was spun and knit by me. As a gift for those of us who are in colder climates than me. Oh dear. Well, let's just say that my hand-spun hat is my most favoritist hat ever, so it's really exciting to be able to knit a hand-spun hat. Indeed. So, that's the story there. So, there is a month left to go for that cowl, and I really hope that you decide to join in. And hopefully a prize is good motivation for joining in. I always think prizes help in matters such as that. So the premise being, that you take something that you've been waiting on for a while, like a pattern or a yarn or, I don't know, the short answer is it needs to have some meaning. And to knit or spin or crochet to make that a reality. So I am, I guess I can segue into what I'm working on for the Something Special Knit Along, which is actually spinning. I am working on camel silk that I bought at the Taos Wool Festival a few years ago, and I had been waiting and waiting and waiting because I didn't feel that I had the mad spinning skills to do it justice, and decided there is no time like the present to start. So, I finished a round of hat. So, I don't even know if I've worked on this at all this week. I probably haven't touched it since I spun on the podcast the other day. Whoops. It looks like my little slip knot slid down. Knitting this week was abbreviated because there was a snowstorm Friday night, so I didn't get as much done as I normally do on a Friday, and I didn't feel much like spinning yesterday. So that is the state of things. There is still quite a lot more to go, but this is the fiber. It is ridiculous and fluffy and soft and amazing, and it looks sort of like I scalped someone for it. Because it really does look like platinum blonde hair. It's sort of ridiculous in that regard. So so this was actually the chunks that I was spinning off the other day, and I'm still slowly but surely working on it. I will probably, I think I'm going to do a lot of carding tonight because I have a good mixture of things I need to do. Actually, that was something I didn't end up even bringing, but that's not a big deal. So, Something Special, Cal. It is quite luxurious to spin, but I have to pay a bit more attention spinning it than I do normal stuff. First, because I'm spinning it fine, and second, because it is harder to draft than wool is. That is for sure. Or it's like simultaneously harder and easier to draft, if that makes sense. Excuse me, it wants to come so quickly. So you have to keep an iron hand with it, which is not what I'm used to when it comes to wool. So, that is the story there. I will be doing some carding because, March through September, so today through September 30th is the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary Pound-a-thon challenge. And so the deal with the Pound-a-thon is that you declare that you're going to spin at least a pound of wool, and at the same time you say what project you're making it for. So I happen to already know that I was going to be doing this challenge when I set up my spin the bin. So I have the intention of spinning 7 skeins of the, what is it, of the chocolate shell and fleece. And I probably actually need to spend more than 7 thinking about it, because a pound would be 8. Ooh, planning fail. Well, as it turns out, what is it? The bits and bobs can also count for that as well, so I think I probably do have a total of a pound in the wings, and that after I finish processing it, it will turn out to be 7, thinking about it. So I've already spun 5 of the chocolate shell and fleece, so whatever, 7 or 8 more isn't going to be the end of the world, but it is to add a little bit of structure to all of that spinning. But I have 3 bags carded right now, which is 6 ounces, and I was hoping to get several more bags started, just so that whenever I have it. I suppose at this point, seeing as I probably only have 7, I'm going to have a decent amount of waste, because a lot of hay comes out. Oh, hay. That I should weigh it and then go ahead and do my declare with the processed and unprocessed fleece instead of doing a little bit of both. So it doesn't count against you for having waste when you're doing processing fleece. It's that you started with a pound. And I'm pretty sure I'm starting with a pound. We'll see. I'd like to get a little bit further on that, and I'm thinking I'm going to try spinning one of them on the wheel, because when I've been spinning it on the spindle, it's been going really, really slowly, and I don't know if that's because I'm not spending the time to spin it or what. So, I'm going to try one on the wheel and see how it goes, and I'll probably end up switching my flyer out to the one, or switching my flyer out to the normal one and just go on the fastest ratio on the normal one and see if I'm getting the right weight of yarn, because I've been fairly consistent with my weight the entire time, so it comes in, like, if I'm spinning it on the spindle, it tends to come in pretty much 80 yards every single time. And my intention is to knit the Mulled Apple Cider cardigan, which will really be a jacket for the cold times of the year, which are quickly passing. I don't know, this week we had winter. It was slightly confusing. I ended up working from home Monday, which is, oh, so there is a missing thing. So, obviously, in my knitting, I never showed the viajante, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, you would not know. I finished my viajante Monday while I was working from home watching training videos, because I couldn't do any other work. It was so bad. Everyone else in my company was working, or it seemed like every single person in my company was also working from home Monday. So the only thing I could do was watch training videos, which was a little bit crazy making, but not the end of the world. So I knit while watching training videos, which made it much more tolerable. So I finished my viajante, but it is sopping wet. I waited too long to block it, and I should have stomped it out on a towel to get it mostly dry, but it is pinned out, and there is no way that I should lift it up, because it would be a terrible, terrible pain to get it to go again. It was very annoying to block. It was rather challenging to get everything lined up, and since I was sort of piercing through 2 pieces of fabric with my blocking wires instead of 1, oh my goodness gracious. It was, it just wasn't a fun block. I hope to never get it dirty, and I should block it more than once, but it wasn't a fun one. It wasn't the case where the shawl, the only hard one is getting the top ridge pinned out, and then the rest of it isn't too bad to get the points with blocking wires. This was, like blocking wires were the right tool, but that didn't mean it wasn't annoying. So, so I will have to wear it on the podcast next time, because yeah, I was feeling a bit under the weather yesterday because I was planning on pinning it out yesterday, and that just wasn't in the cards. I knit on cowl instead. So, what can you do? Not much. So, the other thing, which is coming, which is not quite yet here, is, sorry, I put that one too far away, is I knit a swatch. So, I am pretty close to gauge, or close enough to gauge that I don't really care. This is Woolmice DK in the Mouse Young colorway. And I got this yarn last year for my birthday. It was a really lovely gift from my mother-in-law. And I am going to be knitting a sweater from Mother-Daughter Knits. So, I am going to be knitting the gray cardigan, which we'll just assume that that's looking pretty good. So, the gray cardigan is by Sally Melville, and isn't that like really cool? What I wanted was something that would go with everything I own when it comes to clothing, and this gray color I think is going to match all of the things. So it's just one of those wardrobe basics that I don't have and I really wanted to have. So I got this book for Christmas last year, and then this yarn for my birthday, and it is time, since March is my birthday month, all month long. But, unlike other months of March where I tend to get a little crazy for spring come the second week of March, I need to hold off until the DFW Wool Fest. So, I'm not buying anything until then, and then it'll be delightful. So, and that will be my birthday present, is whenever visiting the market at DFW Wool Fest. So, I got pretty close to gauge. It is a little tighter than the pattern called for. So, the pattern calls for 20 stitches by 29 rows, and I got 21 stitches by 36 rows. And this might have something to do with the fact that I'm, what is it? I used a smaller size, but I think the fabric on this looks really good. So I'll probably knit the slightly bigger size and be fine. Let's see. We shall briefly calculate. So what is it? Divided by 21. Okay, so it looks like with, so if I go with the medium size and the slightly tighter gauge that I got with this, it will be a 0E sweater for my bust. So I think that will look pretty good. And I was thinking about knitting between the small and the medium, but based on my brief calculation, it should be 39.6, which would be whatever, somewhere between 0 to 1 inches each. So I think that'll do. I'm glad I sat down and calculated that. One of the interesting things about Sally's patterns is that she actually has a fixed size for the shoulders, because apparently most people have the same width shoulders. And I do need to sit down, because I ended up taking a class with Sally Melville at Vogue Knitting Live back in 2012. And so we went through and we took all of the measurements. So I need to go through and make sure that my excuse me, to look up my measurements and to make sure they're still right, and then proceed sweater knitting. So on and so forth. So that should be exciting. I was planning on casting on before the podcast, but I got sort of hat obsessed and didn't end up casting on both projects because, like, there was a time today for several hours where I had zero knitting on the needles. Like, sometime from, I don't know, let's say 11 a.m. until like 3 p.m. How did that happen? So, it was slightly ridiculous. We'll just leave it at that. It shouldn't be that way. So, I was still doing knitterly things, but I did not have any projects on the needles during that time, so it was very strange. But it's okay now. I'm gonna soon have two, and it'll be fine. And I'm assuming, what is it? We'll figure out if I end up casting on Fragile Hearts after I finish up the hat. The hat is definitely going to be very easy carry around knitting, but I don't think it's going to actually last me all that long at this point. Was it? Because I have, what, 65 grams left at this point? Which is, I don't know, I'm planning on incorporating my black wool mesa into it if it turns out that it is too small. Because it definitely is pretty dense with all like the slip stitches and stuff like that. So I was planning on doing some sort of brim on it using the black. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a perpendicular style brim or if I'm going to do something else. I know, I really like my hat that has the perpendicular brim. I'm not sure where that hat is hiding at the moment. But in that case, you end up making the brim first, and then you knit stitches above it. In this case, I am working from the top down so that I can use as much of the hand spun as humanly possible for this hat. So, I don't know, that seems to be my favorite way of working hats in hand spun, is that I start from the top and go down, and then I can sort of adjust as needed, because there's nothing worse than not having a crown. Like, the crown is the most important part. If you are missing the crown, then it is not a hat. But you can do some probably interesting things to sort of break up the color and stuff like that. So I don't think I'll have to do stripes, I don't think. I'll probably end up at some point starting to track the weight and just make sure that I'm making a large enough hat. I don't know if the other option I can do is to do a like 1x1 twisted rib brim, because I also really like the way that hugs the head and stuff like that. So there are options. And as you can tell, like, this hat is extremely irresistible to me at the moment. Like, I can't stop knitting on it. It's sort of slightly crazy. At some point, I'll have to make dinner, so, but thankfully it's going to be rather easy. I think the hardest part is chopping the onions. So after I chop up the onions, it should be pretty quick and just throw it in the pot and wait for it to be done, sort of thing. So that is a story there. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk to you guys about. Oh, so for you guys who are spinners, there is something super duper exciting happening. So it is called the Mega Sal. It is a collaboration between a lot of really fantastic dyers, and the theme is Terry Pratchett. So, or actually Discworld books, which are by Terry Pratchett. And if you haven't ever read the Discworld books, I highly recommend them. They are satire, and they are fantasy satire, but they're for the most part, just making fun of the modern world. And there's a pretty wide variety. This is the case where it actually doesn't matter too much where you start reading the books, because they're sort of loosely chronological, but not really. For the short answer is that Terry Pratchett is the only author where I will laugh out loud while reading. I don't think any other author can really get me going like Terry Pratchett can. So, so the short answer is there are a lot of really fantastic dyers coming together. The ones I know for sure who are going to be in the Mega Sal is Adrian of Hello Yarn, David of Southern Cross Fiber, Jen of Nest. I believe there's also, what is it, Friends in Fiber. Is Spunky with that? I'm not sure. There are 6 dyers. They're all really awesome people. I think Fat Cat Knits is in there as well. So they're ones that, like, half of them are ones that I've tried before, and half of them are ones that I haven't had a chance to try, I believe. And I went ahead and I joined the group, so if you stalk me, I'm not in that many groups, so you can see the Mega Sal group and go from there. Or I'll probably link it in the show notes, whatever, that's not too bad. So I believe the Sal portion is running from April until June, probably the end of June, I'm guessing. And that all the 6 dyers are going to do an interpretation, like a colorway from the Discworld series. And I am super duper excited. I'm hoping that they show pictures of all of the fiber for whatever the 6 different dyers and the fiber they're going to create, because I'm probably only going to buy one 4 ounce or maybe 8 ounces, I'm not sure. I really enjoyed spinning 8 ounces of fiber. Or the wheel just makes it easier to do that sort of thing, and I still need to practice on the wheel. Still need to learn. So I'm super duper excited about it. So I hope that you guys are also interested as well. So I think the short answer is that it's an opportunity to get at some hard to get fiber. That was sort of my justification for the Nest Club, which was a birthday present from last year. So, indeed. So, because March is my birthday month. And I'm glad to know that other people feel this way too about March. We're just strange, March birth, whatever. People who are born in March are probably just odd ducks, all of us. Let's see, what else? So I'm really excited about that, and I'll let you guys know as things develop for the Mega Sal. Let's see, the DFW Yarn Festival is coming up the 3rd weekend of March, and I'm not going to buy anything until then. I've been, I don't know, there's a lot going on, a lot of things to do, a lot of things to participate in. I do hope that you guys decide to join in or feel a little bit more motivated for the Something Special Knit Along. That is going on my group, and feel free to show progress pictures and chat it up. Let's see, anything else? I'll probably end up showing a picture of the hat and cowl, probably once I finish the hat, which hopefully won't take too long to do, in the knit along thread. Because I know that some people who are participating in the knit along are not viewers of the podcast, so I think that's everything. So I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to speaking next week. So take care, guys. Bye bye.